I am really looking forward to chatting with today's guests who are here to demystify the concept of ghost kitchens. I know, it sounds kind of spooky, but these delivery-only concepts, which remove dining rooms and front-of-house staff from the equation, are a huge emerging market in the restaurant industry. So big, in fact, that SBE, a hospitality company that traditionally has operated in the hotels, nightlife, and restaurant space, is doubling down. They plan to open 250 ghost kitchens globally by the end of next year, including inside some of our favorite hotels, providing turnkey culinary concepts for hoteliers and travelers alike. Chef Martin Heierling and COO Brad Reynolds of C3, the creative division of SBE dedicated to developing these ghost kitchens, sat down with me over some beers and sushi delivered from their crispy rice concept to share why we shouldn't be so freaked out by this emerging movement in hospitality. Cheers, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I know that you're amidst a launch and it's a crazy busy time, not to mention everything else that's going on in the world. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure.
Yeah. Also, not going to lie, I'm really excited to try this umami IPA that you sent along.
Oh yeah. We hooked you up today.
You for real, dude. That was a drop if I've ever seen one. I've never had an IPA with bonito flakes in it. Tell me a little bit about this.
It's of course an IPA. It gets finished with bonito because it's an umami driver and it fits right into our umami profile. I think it's actually called umami, to be honest with you. And we love this one. This is we wanted to be a bit more edgy, and something that fits into the umami brand, and that's really what we picked. It's awesome.
Totally. It's beautiful. Also, the branding is spot on point. You guys can deliver alcohol now, huh?
Yeah, we can. We're trying to take it, we're trying to be differentiated as we can. And we're trying to, offer as much, kind of a full service experience as we can in a delivery only environment right now. So a lot of municipalities have opened up channels, and kind of put new regulatory practices in place where we can deliver where we couldn't before, where we couldn't, 2 months ago. So wherever we can, we're live and active delivering alcohol. So, we're partnering with our friends at Moet Hennessy to do a Sam's Crispy Chicken and Champagne brunch special coming up here pretty soon. So one of the things that we're trying to do with our partners to just drive some cool product offering into the delivery marketplace.
I love that. Okay, one of the world's greatest pleasures is champagne and fried chicken. So I fully support this. Could not be behind that more.
Next time we'll throw a few mini bottles in there for you too.
Also, this is some of the most beautiful delivery I've ever seen. It's just the packaging itself is absolutely gorgeous. Tell me a little bit about that. I know that you guys are working with the design studio here in LA, yeah?
Yeah, we work with multiple agencies. For some of them, for different brands, we work with different agencies. But obviously a lot of time and effort and thinking and rethinking and rebuilding has gone into the packaging. But what's really most important for us to in this market is that we just don't deliver some food and some alcohol. We pride ourselves to doing a product that is of restaurant dine-in quality. And when you receive it at your house or at your place or in your office, it should be equally as experiential to you from a packaging and from a excitement perspective as it is in a restaurant. And that's really what we've done. Of course, you have to check on things like does the packaging hold up? Does it do the food justice? Does the food stay hot? What does it do? But we've done that over a period of probably the last 10 months, equally in each brand. And but at the end of the day, what's really important to us is we're not launching just food, we're launching brands. And that's really the biggest sort of difference to us. We take a lot of pride in building brands, and then the experience has to be second to none.
What does that mean when you say you're building a brand? Obviously, the food is very important. The visuals are very important. What are the other elements of that experience that you guys are building when you're building a brand?
It's important that since we're a lifestyle company, SB is known for delivering experiences. So you walk away and it's a 360 experience from sitting in a restaurant, from dining out, have a great meal, have a great cocktail. But then there's a lot of more components to that experience, like the atmosphere, the buzz, and then this desire to do it again. Well, the food has to be very good. There's not even that, but people commenting and for example, looking at crispy rice where we have somebody initialing the order on the box, for example. Little things like that make a point of difference, that shows that we actually take great care and take great pride in the process and not just something off the shelf. We want to actually own our product and represent it really well.
To backtrack a little bit, I guess, before we dive deep into this, can you explain to our audience what a ghost kitchen is? Like, it sort of sounds like something that's in the upside down.
So what is it? Yeah, what is a ghost kitchen?
Go for Brad.
So it's interesting. So I come from more of a traditional, multi-unit restaurant retail background. To me, the idea of a ghost kitchen always made perfect sense to me, right? You're taking the majority of your off-premise and delivery business from a kitchen engine and kind of a production standpoint, and you're pulling that out of a traditional four walls environment, and you're putting that into a separate facility or a auxiliary facility. The other piece is you're taking an existing brick and mortar kitchen that has one brand, that traditionally has, kind of one consumer focused, front of house focused restaurant brand, and you're adding more horsepower to that kitchen by putting a new concept that's operating on the same platform. So when people, it's kind of wild to me how many people are still trying to wrap their heads around what a ghost kitchen is. But at its core, a ghost kitchen is essentially it's a kitchen production engine that you can apply one brand, you can apply 10 brands, you can do anything out of the back of house on whatever platform you set up to execute your menu and your culinary without that consumer facing component. And traditionally, the bulk of that would be in a third party delivery type of setting, or for pickup and off premise only. And just to expand on it, I think because I like to add what is a ghost kitchen to us, like how do we think about what is a ghost kitchen? Because there are a lot of people that if they have an idea of what a ghost kitchen is, they've already formulated their opinion or their kind of understanding of what that is and whether they like it or not, whether they think it's good for the industry or not. What we're trying to do, and we hope it's reflected in some of the food that you have in front of you today, is we refuse to sacrifice any piece of the restaurant experience, the culinary experience. We can't sacrifice any of that just because we're putting food for delivery only in a separate kitchen facility, and it doesn't have a front of house component. It doesn't mean that any of the focus, the attention to detail, and the execution gets left behind. And so as we think about what is a ghost kitchen to us, a ghost kitchen to us is a vehicle where we can open multiple brands with a variety of different culinary and set an attraction from a brand set standpoint to a variety of different consumers that may otherwise not have access to some of our brands or to some of the more upscale dining environments that traditionally SVE has focused on. So, our goal is to provide that same experience with the same great culinary, partnering with great chefs in Martin's stable of amazing, culinary minds, and put menus and a culinary experience together that allows you to experience something great within 30 minutes delivered to your house that costs under $30. And so we've opened up this world, and we'll continue to open up this world as we develop more brands to a broader audience than we've ever been able to before.
How does it make you feel? Because I know that you guys both come from I guess would say somewhat more traditional restaurant background where you are interacting P2P with diners on a daily basis. Do you miss that human interaction ever in this ghost kitchen experience?
Yes, for sure. It's in a restaurant, I can walk up to the table, have an interaction, right? But I can only do that as one person in one setting at any given time. So the answer is, for me personally, yes, it's kind of, you miss that from a traditional sense, but at the same time, the excitement comes when you can touch 100 times, 1,000x guests at the same moment with the same experience. That excites me, and making sure that these experiences deliver on the promise is an exciting proposition. Yes. So for me personally, yes, I miss that a little bit. Luckily, we still have restaurants when we reopen where I can do that. But in the grand scheme of things, having the opportunity, like Brad was saying, delivering that credibility, that culinary artisanal craftsmanship over and over again in a wider range of radius to people that maybe not necessarily can afford to go and spend $120, $130 a night. That excites me,
What's interesting to me about what you guys are doing is that you have this rapid expansion plan where it's not just for Los Angeles or New York City, these major metropolitan markets, but to move into, I think it's up 250 locations over the next year. And so it may in fact provide opportunities to people who are living in, smaller markets to experience something that they might not have had access to before.
Yeah, that's 100% part of our goal. And this year we're bringing our brands to over 150 locations by the end of 2020, and then another 100 plus locations next year. And you're absolutely right. And to Mark, what Martin was saying prior, this is we are not sacrificing on any of our product, any of our packaging. That we are looking at this from a holistic culinary experience and from an in-home upscale dining experience, right? This is, we call it phone to table, where we are taking the same great experience that you would have in the restaurant. We're bringing it to your home, and we can do that as Martin indicated. We can do that in hundreds of times a day in hundreds of different cities, and that's the most exciting part about it for us.
Something that's interesting to me, I've read a lot about cloud kitchens here in Los Angeles and the businesses that are sprouting out of that. What I think is interesting about what you guys are doing is also utilizing the facilities that you already have at some of the restaurants and using those as locations so that Crispy Rice can then have 10 locations around Los Angeles through various different outlets. Can you guys explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so we are... Because if you look at SBE and the whole portfolio of real estate that we have with traditional brick and mortar restaurants, hotels, nightlife, we are trying to bring our brands into some of the more underutilized real estate that we have in our portfolio as essentially step one in our ability to grow this platform. And we've partnered with some other guys, as you mentioned, some of the folks that have a more turnkey solution for restaurant operators. But because of our expertise in full service dining and brand building and culinary, we have a leg up in terms of being able to roll our platform to a variety of different environments. So whether that's reusing kitchens within our nightlife venues that otherwise would be dormant for most of the day, or leveraging our hotel network to put ghost kitchens into hotels. These are all things that are easily accessible to us. And with a combination of great culinary and technology, we can flip the switch and turn these on pretty much anywhere we have an existing footprint. And in addition to that, we are also pursuing, adding additional pieces of real estate where we can run 4 or 5 brands out of a single kitchen.
That's so wild. What are you guys looking for when you're developing a concept? We have, Crispy Rice is sort of based off of the idea of, I think, Katsuya. Obviously, Sam's, Nashville Fried Chicken is having a moment right now. Like, what is the it factor that you guys are looking for when you build one of these brands out?
It's actually funny. When we launched Crispy Rice, it was a coincidence. It was literally 8 years to the date since we trademarked that idea. So we've been sitting on these ideas for a long time. And then we started about a year ago, starting to get really diving into creating brands from the ground up. Crispy Rice was always on our highest priority list because it's born out of what we know, right? We anchored this entire C3 concept. This is our, subsidiary of the company. We anchored it around umami to start off with. Sam's Crispy Chicken, which is one of the most popular actually dishes on the umami menu originally. And so with the crispy chicken craze, we just extracted that into its own concept, and then led by Crispy Rice, where we know this is the number one selling menu item in the Katsuya brand, So that's how we sort of started working. And then the next holistic approach to the brand was subsequently knowing with the things that we learned through our Impossible platform, for example, in umami, where we were the first ones to exclusively feature Impossible as a platform, not just as a dish. How much the plant-based movement and the vegan community is embracing having really great experiences. And that led us then to Plant Nation. So the next concept that we're actually launching is called Plant Nation, an entirely plant-based concept, from plant-based, meaning from food, packaging, everything. So everything in this concept is plant-based. No plastics, no paper. This is all based on plant-based packaging, for example. You have to be innovative. And if you don't innovate, you're going to be left behind very quickly, particularly small, up-and-coming individual operators. They have some great ideas. So we don't want to give up on our full-wall traditional dining background ideas, right, from a chef's perspective.
Thank God. Don't do it. We can't just live out of ghost kitchens. I know it seems like we kind of have to right now, right? And this couldn't have possibly been a better time for something like these concepts to be launching and picking up steam, because you have a captive audience who this is the only way we can experience dining out. But it's been in the works now for so long, and it doesn't sound like you're giving up that side of the business. It's just really wildly expanding into a new one.
Well, we knew, and I'll let Brad talk about it maybe a bit more. We knew the reason why we went down this road. We obviously had this strategically planned prior to this shutdown and this pandemic. And we had a launch schedule that coincidentally, ran parallel to this shutdown, so to say. We just actually moved up launches of our brands, and from a time perspective, we pushed them up earlier. But the launch schedule, we wrote that in November of last year, before any of this was known. So the reason why we went down this track is just because we know by data that the dining segment and the delivery segment grows year over year by double digits in general. And it's taken a huge component of our top line revenue. That's the growing revenue part. And I think restaurants that don't do that, sooner or later, let me say this, anybody who's doing that now because they were forced to do it and to survive, I would say that nobody's going to give up on that aspect anymore, that any restaurateur is now heavily entertaining the idea of doing both. And that's really what we went strategically in from the beginning to do so. Don't you think, Brad?
I totally agree. And I think what we're experiencing now is going to accelerate in more adoption into the delivery landscape. I don't think there's ever a world in which regular kind of full service dining experiences go away, but I think people are, as they're being forced into a different type of occasion set on delivery, I think they're experiencing more brands, and they're diversifying some of the option set in their homes. And I think that's going to continue to carry through after this is over. And I think people are going to continue to want that more on-demand experience and have the same optionality that they're having in a variety of cuisine and lunch, dinner, breakfast. I think all day parts are on the table as well.
Here's my question to you guys, because something I've been noticing a lot as I'm shooting for a lot of restaurants that are starting their delivery concepts is that the packaging is oftentimes not all that sustainable. It's not necessarily something you could reuse or compost or be recyclable. And I wonder also, we all talk about sustainability when it comes to food. Like, does that play a factor at all in how you guys have built out the C3 brand?
100%. What we really, really embraced in this platform is to be carbon neutral, meaning you have to be a sustainable resource. The manufacturing, the transporting to you should leave a negative, or let's say neutral carbon footprint on the environment. And that's really who we work with as our vendor, our designer, and our manufacturers. We make sure that we represent that idea from A to Z. So there's no negotiating that. That's our perspective on that.
Yeah, I think it's 100%, a piece of the equation that everyone, if they're not thinking about it now, they have to be thinking about it going forward, because people are demanding a better experience. They're demanding, better, more secure packaging as well. And there has to be a story in every part of your brand. And packaging is as more people start ordering more off-premise food, that's just going to become even bigger of a piece of that story. And so, as Martin said, the focus that we put on all of our packaging and all of our brands is to be carbon neutral. And we think that everyone should be taking a stand for something in all of their products and all of their packaging and all the elements and the components that roll up to their bigger brand proposition. And we try to do that in everything that we do. Especially when you're operating in a digital branded experience, a kind of a virtual ecosystem. you need to take advantage of every opportunity to tell the story to the consumer of what you're doing. And it's not easy, right? When there's nothing, when all you have is a box in front of you with some food in it. But if that box tells the story and that box is part of the branded experience, then it's an opportunity to continue to tell that story to the guest. And I think we do a great job with that.
Do you think that these ghost kitchens will eventually replace fast food?
Well, that's an interesting question. So I think fast food has to catch up on what's going to happen from a quality perspective, from an expectation level. I think on the long run, and I think we've seen this already over the past decade, that the expectation from a diner and level of quality of product that shows up at your house is something that they have to keep up with, because the larger chains, they're going to be very slow to react to, in real time, to what you can do on an innovative level. So I think, look, does it replace fast food? I don't know. I think there's always a place for everybody and everything, particularly from a price point perspective. But I think everybody has to up their game. I think that's really what I take out of this.
It seems like it maybe lands somewhere in between fast food and fast casual, like somewhere in between. It's quick. It's the phone to table. And I think, like you said, the fast food industry, it really does need to start taking note. I mean, just seeing how they started providing the Impossible burgers and, vegan options so quickly, and the fried chicken sandwiches that are now on the menu. And when everyone was caring about salads and health, they put salads on the menu. I think that they're going to be taking a lot of cues from ghost kitchens, and delivery. I mean, they're trying to capitalize on meal delivery just like everybody else is right now. So they're going to be playing a game of catch up. And I think it's interesting what you guys are doing. I was reading a little bit about how you're trying to hire some of the folks. Obviously, here in Los Angeles, we've been hit really hard. The restaurant industry has really just been feeling the pain with the coronavirus. Have you guys, how have you guys kind of leaned into that and tried to help employ some of the folks who are out of work right now?
We've really tried to prioritize that, and we've done it in a few different ways. The first way, as Martin mentioned earlier, we moved up our timelines to roll out our future brands that are now, one of them sitting in front of you there, Crispy Rice. We rolled that up almost 30 days in advance of when we were going to roll it out. And we did that for a couple reasons. One, we wanted to get this brand in front of people while delivery was their only option. But more importantly, the more we can accelerate our process, the more people we can employ. Right, both our own people that for a little while, a short period of time, we had to either furlough, or we weren't able to give them any hours in a traditional restaurant environment. We try to bring all those people back as quickly as possible and roll them into our ghost kitchens, which we've done very successfully. Additionally, we're hiring. Last week we hired 40 more people. Today we had another hiring event. We hired 40 new people today. We do these hiring events, and we try to recruit great talent, people that are eager to get back to work, people that are eager to get into our kitchens and help us roll out these new concepts. I have 35 more brand kitchens that we're opening here between now and the end of May, which is a pretty incredible pipeline. So
is it for Crispy Rice, Sam's Crispy, and then the vegan concept, or do you have another one?
Right. So Plant Nation. So right now we're gearing up for more Crispy Rice locations to launch, plus Plant Nation. And so that's kind of the last two hiring events we've done. So that's going to be almost a weekly process for us going forward. And, we're trying to hire 1,000 people over the next 4 months. We consider that doing our part, right? And it's, obviously it's part of our business model to open as many kitchens as we can and roll as many new brands into the marketplace as we can. But, kind of coinciding with this environment that we're dealing with right now is perfect timing for us to just accelerate that as much as we can and put as many people back to work as possible. So we feel good about our ability to do that.
Look, the world needs more crispy rice. I'll just tell you that much. That was freaking delicious. I grew up in the Valley, and there was a Katsuya down the road, and it was kind of like the cool date night thing to do was to go get crispy rice. And so it's cool to think that more and more people have access to something like that. It's like definitely a gateway sushi. I feel like it kind of gets you into the idea of it when you're younger.
Gateway sushi. I love it. It's
actually interesting, Krista. We're particularly looking in the Valley. We're looking for actually locations right now to get there and represent our brands in there. from a geographical perspective. But I hear you. I live there too,
Oh, yeah. Look, at the time, it was just like there was nothing around. But now I feel like the Valley's kind of having a moment. People really do. There's a lot of people with money in their pockets and nice houses that need some good food to go on their table. So I think that's a smart move. How can I, as a consumer, if I'm looking at the Postmates app, how can I tell if something is a ghost kitchen or if it's an actual restaurant with brick and mortar and a front of house to pay? Like, how do I know the difference?
You want me to give up all the secrets, huh?
I'm just curious. I mean, I think people, when they hear that name, they're just like, wait, what? Like,
my goal is that someday soon people will get away from the idea of thinking of ghost kitchens as something that they're not, right? Some old warehouse in the middle of nowhere with guys who cooking who don't know what they're doing with brands that are irrelevant and 18 different pizza boxes, whatever. Like that's so far from what a ghost kitchen is to us. But the simple way to put it is like a ghost kitchen can be anywhere, anything, anywhere. People who order mainstream QSR brands right now, like the McDonald's and the Chick-fil-A and those types of concepts. There's a good chance that food was made in a ghost kitchen.
What? I kind of always wondered that. So there's not a delivery guy rocking up to the drive-through line. Usually they're going to a secondary location that's specifically for the delivery. Interesting. Wow.
If people really care, they can look at the address on Postmates and they can go online and they can see what is that address and they can figure it out.
Right. Well, if it's on Washington, you're likely at the Cloud Kitchen. So
right. Yeah. But a lot of crispy rice. We make crispy rice and we deliver it out of our restaurants, right? Which is that is set up. It's a perfect environment to add an additional brand that focuses on the same type of menu. Mm-hmm. With the same high quality chefs and sushi chefs and all that already there making great food for the Katsuya guests. Why wouldn't we do this in the same environment for crispy rice? It could be in one of our hotels, right? That only serves breakfasts for room service in the morning, and now we're using for lunch and dinner. We're using that kitchen for 3 other concepts. So people can figure it out if they really care. But what I would hope that people do is they judge the food that comes out of the ghost kitchen environment, or they judge the food, generally speaking, from the brand that they order from when it gets to their house, and they look at that experience and they take that experience into consideration and value that more than maybe the traditional thought of the kitchen environment that it was made.
Something I'm really interested in as somebody who travels all the time, normally when we're allowed to travel, is I love room service. It's just like this guilty pleasure, especially when you land in a new city. But it can get kind of stale, the offerings. And I'm really curious to hear about how you guys are thinking about expanding the ghost kitchens into the hotels that you operate.
We're partnering with 2 of our hotels right now in Miami to open ghost kitchens for 3 of our brands, ultimately 4 once we launch our plant-based concepts. Traditionally, a lot of these areas where we have lifestyle hotels, they're very underutilized, or I should say underserved areas for delivery. An audience that's almost captive to the on-premise options, right? And it's not like you can walk to anything other than 4 or 5 star full service dining. So people don't always want that option. And so we're trying to bring our brands and our concepts to that environment. So our first 2 will likely be in Miami Beach. And once the world gets back to normal, I think we'll be very successful back there. And we're also partnering with other hotel operators that are in our network and bringing, an incremental offering to either provide some additional diversity to their options for their guests in the hotel, and then also sell food to that trade area around the hotel for delivery. So there, it's a tremendous pipeline for not just us, but for anybody who's looking to repurpose some of their underutilized kitchen space. Not to mention all the partnerships that we have with the second biggest hotel operator in the world. So yeah, a lot of opportunity there.
Can you talk to the listeners a little bit about that? Like, how SBE is kind of structured as a business, and then how C3 then falls under that?
SBE, we have a hotel vertical under that umbrella. So SBE is the parent umbrella for multiple subsidiaries. The Disruptive Restaurant Group, which is based here in LA, which Katsuya, Clio, and Umami and all these restaurants fall under, which is our restaurant arm of the company. Then you have the nightlife arm of the company with all the nightclubs, Nightingale, Hyde, Doheny, etc. Then we have the hotel component, which we have our brands, SLS, the Mondrian, all the brands that we have now globally. And then C3 was born as a fourth pillar out of that umbrella company, because we created a freestanding business that took the idea of creating quick service solutions in a ghost kitchen, or, to Brad's point, in a marketplace, market food hall sort of environment that started based on our very successful brand, using the brand equity that we built, and translate that brand equity into a trusted quick service solution. Plus, on top of that, we were able to do all these amazing, some of the best chefs in the world. We have 3-star Michelin chefs that we have partnered with. Danny Garcia, a 3-star Michelin chef out of Spain. Morimoto is coming on. We have other chefs that we're working with. They come to understand that we're not interested in building another Morimoto, another Danny Garcia, another Katsuya. We're interested in building a brand with them as a joint venture and a partner that creates, in the quick service, 30 minutes delivery time under $30, creating a business model that caters to that need. And that's what C3, creating culinary communities, that's what that stands for. That's what this particular vertical is invented for.
Right. I remember this all happening, like the fast casual thing happening, where everyone was talking about wanting to do something like this, but you still are faced with the issue of retail space being so expensive and having higher front of house staff and, all the things that come along with that. And so you kind of bypass all of that and give them access to a way to distribute their ideas that are a little bit more approachable and access a new audience. And hopefully the people will be so inspired that they then decide, oh my gosh, maybe I should invest in going to Morimoto one night for my anniversary. That delivery we had, amazing.
This platform also gives investors, from that perspective, an opportunity, people that are in real estate or in struggling real estate, to think about their models themselves. If they can come to us and we bring in turnkey solution on their real estate needs, such as retail, for example, that is hurting right now. And maybe we can bring them solutions that are, the reinvention of retail spaces, And so there's a multifaceted sort of approach to that strategic thinking.
This is something I actually have a friend of mine who's a chef in some pretty high-end Japanese kitchens and was brought on to develop a somewhat similar concept. And she brought up a couple of the issues of social distancing within the kitchen and also social distancing of delivery drivers. Like, how are you guys, making sure that you're adhering to all the current rules and keeping things safe out there?
As you can imagine, it's a tough thing to hold people accountable to. But in the kitchens, obviously, what a restaurant kitchen looks like. It's rather tight quarters. But we make sure all of our people have masks on as soon as they walk into the venue. They have masks on now. In Southern California, they're wearing masks basically all day long on their way to work, leaving work, all that. Gloves, masks, 24/7 on premise in the restaurant. And we do our best to manage kind of the real estate within the kitchen to keep both the chefs and the concepts as separate as possible. And then we have a delivery specialist that does all the handoffs within each of our kitchens. As it relates to the drivers, a lot of the feedback we've been receiving from our employees in our kitchens, in our restaurants, is that there are a lot of new faces in the delivery driver world these days. And a lot of those new people are trying to, capitalize on just this being one of the only businesses and kind of gig economy opportunities that are available to them right now, because nobody's taking normal Ubers, but everyone's using Uber Eats, right? So some of those new people haven't been following the rules as much as I think they should, or aren't, in line with some of the normal kind of driver behavior that we've seen in the past. But we do our best outside of both our ghost kitchens and our restaurants We have, the X's on the ground, as you've seen, trying to keep people in a safe distance apart. We have a specialist. In some locations, we have intercoms. So there's, we don't have to open the door and have people coming in and out and yelling and what's your name and all this. So we've tried to implement some technology solutions there to simplify that. And then we hope that our people stay safe. We hope that the drivers do the best they can. We seal all of our bags, all of our boxes. We seal everything. But we've taken every step we possibly can to ensure that this gets executed. And then we follow up, right? We have people in venue every day at all of our locations, both our umami restaurants and our ghost kitchens, making sure that this behavior is being followed, because we have no choice. We absolutely have to. And it's for the safety of our people and for the safety of our guests.
Yeah, it's really important. And I think, we shouldn't be villainizing people who are certainly trying to make a living, but I feel like all the information is constantly changing too. And the rules are constantly changing. And I think, all of us are really looking forward to getting out of this mess and just being able to operate at normal capacity. Like you're saying, a kitchen, you're butt to butt.
It's like in one sense, our employees are essential employees, right? This is an essential business because people need to eat. And additionally, we're trying to do our job to put people to work and make sure that, we can get our former employees back to work and hire as many new people that other restaurants and other pieces of this industry can't support. So, I'm probably not the best person to ask because sometimes I'm a little rough around the edges with these things, but, we can't have it both ways, right? We have to be pragmatic about, doing our best within the restaurant environment, taking as many precautions as we can. But ultimately, if we are considering these businesses essential, there are certain scenarios where people will be within 6 feet of each other. It's just the nature of the kitchen environment. But if they're taking the right practices, sanitary practices, like they should be in the kitchen with regular washing, changing gloves, always wearing masks, handling food the right way, securing everyone's to-go orders. And then not trying to avoid interaction with any of the drivers other than an easy handoff or placing food in one of our pickup areas. That's the best we can do. And I'm going to keep pushing as much as I can. I'm going to keep opening as many kitchens as I can. And Martin's going to keep giving us great food and great brands to go out there and execute. And I just hope that everything gets back to normal, or at the very least, people are understanding that, in order for our people to make a living and for us to be able to provide this essential service, like we're doing the best we can, and it's not perfect, but it's the only option we have right now.
Mm-hmm. No, it really seems like it is a big part of what the future of food and the future of restaurants is going to be, whether, you want to be nostalgic about sitting in a dining room or not. It's part of moving forward. And I think we all really do need to move forward and embrace it as just, a creative innovation and a creative solution, and something that also can have, some positives too. Like I get, there's part of me that's like, hearing that term phone to table, I'm like, no, I'm a farm girl. I want to be with the farmers and like the people, but and also like you're saying, you guys are legit hospitality guys. You want to provide some delicious food in a beautiful setting and a beautiful branding. It's it's fun to eat and certainly fun to drink as well. And I think it's just a component of the way the future of food is going to look.
We're not telling people to order more and don't go to restaurants ever again. We're just saying, like, if you guys want to do this, if people want to order more food via delivery, we want you to order our food, right? And
there's an interesting experience, Krista, that we might all share. I don't know, when all of a sudden the supermarkets were emptying out shelves, right? One of the most resonating things that I had seen was everything in the frozen and the prepared aisle was empty. The fresh produce aisle was full. What does it tell you? People don't know how to cook, number one. They don't want to cook, right? Or they don't know what to do with this product. They've never even heard of it, It's crazy. I'm not making this up. You've all experienced this, But the pasta section and the frozen meals and the frozen pizza and the enchiladas in the freezer, that stuff was all gone. There's nothing left, right? But if you actually just go into the meat market and get your meat and you get your vegetables, there was plenty of food to go around, to be honest with you. So to your point, I think, yeah, there's a, is it right? It's just the way it is in these days. There's a generation, there's a change in customer behavior that's happened. People don't know how to cook. Maybe they don't even have the equipment how to cook at home. They want to order. A great portion of the population orders food because that's normal to them. They don't even know what to do with some ingredients, and that's why the essential services from that perspective are huge because, man, what else? Like I said, if you just use these experiences, these observations, and translate them to what we do, we're not trying to force a fine dining experience to you. We're actually giving you food that you can eat multiple times a week that is nutritious and comes with integrity, with the same way it would be done in a restaurant, but at a price point that you can afford. And that's really our strategy. I think that's really important.
Yeah. Hey, look, I will eat that Sam's crispy chicken multiple times a week. You don't have to twist my arm. That stuff is so good. The meat is so juicy, which is very hard. Breast meat is a tricky little beast. I'm usually a thigh girl myself, but what do you do to that to make it so tasty?
I was hoping you weren't going to ask me that.
Oh no, we need a couple little tidbits here.
They're like trade secrets, like really.
Oh man, you guys have to order this. Like seriously, it is so bomb. I mean, and it's amazing too, because, sometimes I get sort of a little cautious about ordering anything fried. Delivery can get kind of soggy, but the waffle fries were perfectly crispy. The chicken was perfectly crispy. I did this without like what you guys sent. This is a couple weeks ago. It was real good.
I'm very proud. Why do we just don't want to do another crispy chicken thing that everybody's been doing. There's obviously always an innovation and a point of difference that we want to bring to the table. I'm a big lover and a big, fan of koji yeast, which is basically an umami driver. So our chicken, number one, is koji treated, koji marinated. Koji is a side product of making sake. And in order for sake to be, for the starch in the rice corn to be affected and being fermented, you have to inoculate it with a yeast that goes to work and then converts that sugar into alcohol. And that yeast is called koji. And when that yeast has done its job, it's a byproduct of that you filter out of the sake process. It has qualities that are incredible that makes umami, that creates that umami effect on food. So it's like a Vegemite without being totally disgusting. Correct, exactly.
I actually love Vegemite. I love Vegemite so much, and it is fascinating to me. So Vegemite is made from the leftover scrapings of beer fermentation. So it's that similar like red yeast, and it does have that really rich umami flavor. It's really high in B12s. It is so good, you guys. And I have like guilty pleasure. Those waffle fries from Carl's Jr. growing up was like the after swim practice treat. And these far outdo Carl's Jr. fries. They're real good. And I love, again, like that you guys can order booze. And I hope that rule sticks, because I think that's such a huge factor for so many restaurants in Los Angeles, is that now we can do alcohol delivery. There's no reason why people should be operating at such small margins. We're just all hanging on by a thread in this industry. And, again, what you're doing sounds like a very legitimate option and way to move forward so that we don't end up in the similar crisis like we're in again.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Well, I cannot wait to get to this lunch al desco, because this is the most epic looking lunch al desco I've ever had. But I really appreciate you guys.
You might have gone a little overboard with the selection there. It's a little...
Just a little bit. I'm going to have some leftovers on my hands, but it's great. We got the weekend ahead of us. I really appreciate it. I wish I could invite you guys over. Next time we'll have to do this IRL. Some of this amazing umami beer, the umami IPA. It's really good. It does have that savoriness. I love that.
Do you know they come in as a 6-pack, Krista? So I'll bring it next time. I'll bring the cold 6-pack.
I love it. As long as you're coming with the 6-pack, that's cool with me. Cheers.
Cheers.